I'm going to try this again with less BS. So, I'm Jesus, Son of God, an alien, a vampire, false prophet, the beast, Thoth, Hermes Trismegistus, Quetzalcoatl, Ningazita, Lord Pakal. I've had a lot of names. It's been a long series of lives. So I'm going to read this Revelations 12 and I'm going to interrupt often. A great sign appeared in heaven, Revelations 12. A woman clothed with the sun. So, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head, she was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to the earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth so it might devour her the moment he was born. She gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule all the nations with an iron scepter. And her child was snatched up to God and to his throne. The woman fled into the wilderness to a place prepared for her by God where she might be taken care of for 1,260 days. I don't know what the significance is of that many days or when those days would, when 1,260 days is from September 23rd, 2017. 360 days in a year, give or take. So, I don't know, 4 years or so. So, this, sometime this year, maybe. So, the sign was September 23rd. That was the Revelations 12 alignment. The woman, I didn't pay attention to this because everyone else seemed to be doing so. But 4 days after this, on my birthday, September 27th, 2017, I photographed her, Inanna, the Queen of Heaven. And there'd been a UFO over my house at, was it like 2:34 a.m. and a Black Hawk helicopter at like 5 p.m. And then I knew God was there. I'd been in her presence once before in 2002, so, or 2001. So I just was trying to get my dog or do whatever I was doing and get back in the house as soon as possible. And I took a picture, and that's my profile picture you've probably seen. But here's where it gets weird. When it says, so that happened in the sky, but what happens in the sky happens on Earth as well. So the woman clothed with the sun is the goddess taking refuge in my body. And it says she was pregnant and cried out as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven. That would be October 19th or 20th, depending if you believe me or the Hawaii Observatory. I photographed the scout ship from 2017 U1 in front of my house. The Navy calls it the Nimitz UFO. And I call her Red because when I first saw her earlier in 2017, she was pursued by like 20 or 25 planes that came from northeast, no, southeast, west, everything between east and west they were coming from. But she photographed the craft on October 20th, and on the 22nd I was abducted. It says here, taken up to Father God in heaven, right? That's what the verse says. And I think that when I was abducted, that I did technically leave the firmament in that half an hour from 3 o'clock to 3:30 a.m. on October 22nd. And the next day, well, that night I noticed some soreness where I'd been stabbed over and over again underneath my ribs. But during the abduction, but just as I photographed her looking at me in kind of like a blue and white, the sky, the clouds. But it's clear that there's more going on there than just the sky and the clouds. She's holding a phone. She's dressed up enough to make it obvious something's going on. Some people called it a bear suit. Scuba, I would say, is more like it. But it was like only in this past year or 8 months that I realized that from Earth they had seen what happened up there, and I think it was the stone being rolled back and rising from the grave is what I believe they saw from whatever observatory. So on the 23rd, while I was in the emergency room getting treated for the bite and radiation burns from time-space travel, that's when the footage was released to the public of what they call the Nimitz UFO, but that in fact was a scout ship, had been a scout ship from 2017 U1. So I believe God is female. I'm not a feminist. Being that I'm Jesus, then theoretically I'm God and the male God incarnate. And there is no safer place for the goddess to be than to be clothed in the sun. So she's inside me, which is a bit interesting. And it's like, disclosure revelations in the apocalypse are the gradual process of coming to grips with and understanding the reality of the situation. That's what those words mean: revealing, unveiling. And that was as much a process for me as it was for anyone else. I had a lot longer to deal with the situation, and I didn't realize how messed up a lot of it was, or how much this whole situation messed up my life. When I was young, I did try to sever my penis, because God's neither male or female, according to me. But I've always had this real duality, which is like, stay away from me for your own good, because there are really people that want to do me harm, you know? And then I'd be like, where is everybody? Where are my friends? You know, but the people who were supposed to be friends weren't anyway. So anyway, I did partially sever the left side of, at least, of my penis, and I just remember the blood. And QAnon explained this to me